Ladies and gentlemen and children of the planet Earth, do you know what you're looking at? Let me tell you what you're looking at, ladies and gentlemen. You're looking at a set of drafting tools. That which I utilized when I worked for Fairchild Industries in 1974 to modify jet aircraft more known or more commonly known as the A-10A. That's right, this is a set of Farkas precision instruments made in Germany in 1936. And when I learned how to utilize those instruments during the course of my school years, where I also received an airframe and power plant jet mechanics license when I was in school, which allowed me to build certain things, including jet airplanes, and of course I also had the ability to sign these things off so that you could fly in them. And this is something I built. This is a section of aileron, and these are the rigging components inside. And we would build things like this from scratch for projects for testing. And also, when I worked for the Air Force, I would work as a jig modifier on the A-10A, as well as working on some Pratt & Whitney engines and modifying different components during the course of the years that I worked in the airline industry. Oh, there's a picture of Dad on the Paulinock, which I also decked for Dad, and this was the tugboat that brought all the pilings and all the sand, rock, and materials to the Battery Park City job, that which I worked on Dad's tugboat as a deckhand for in the 70s. Moving past that, the instruments that I just showed you allowed me to see, by utilizing my knowledge of mechanical engineering, allowed me to see a series of alignment marks located on the edges of the $1 bills along what I call the poles of shittim wood that appear at the top and bottom of the parallel lines of these white lines that appear as the poles of shittim wood that are the poles that hold the Ark of the Covenant on the four corners where you would pick these poles up. There is a series of 6 sets of 4 alignment marks. 6 here, 6 here, 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 and here. On the top and the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ladies and gentlemen, there are 24 alignment marks on the top for a series of 4 times 6, and 24 on the bottom, a series of 4 times 6. And each one of those 4 marks are offset slightly, which allows the bills to be folded in an untold amount of configurations to form 3-dimensional constructs that go on forever. However, I tried to explain several hundred of these constructs inside the volume of my work, aka Angels on the Ark, and you can see this by clicking the link at the bottom of this video. And during the course of the information that I acquired from the constructs of the $1 bill, including the fact that there is a picture or representation of the 44th POTUS, and when it's turned upside down, the same picture represents Satan. This is described in great detail inside the volume of the book as well. And of course, there is the ability to fold and roll the bills in different angles so that you can see pictures on the edges of the bill of faces of men that are not men, that are described as the Seraphim on the $1 bills. The faces of the men, even though it only looks like there are 2 here and 2 here, if you hold it on a 45-degree angle, 4 more appear and 4 more appear. for a grand total of what would have been 12 if I was telling you the truth, but there are closer to 32 individual faces on the reverse and obverse, on either end of the Ark of the Covenant. And those faces are incorporated into creatures that appear to be bullocks or oxen that can be seen by rolling the bills at a certain curvature close to 15 degrees, moving them about in different angles of light, different kinds of light, and at different angles. You can rotate the bill to form pictures of what appear to be oxen or what appear to be bullock. But more importantly, these are the pictures of the animals that appeared 2,000 years ago during the time of Moses, or 3,314 years ago from today. But originally, when the Lord God placed life on earth, there were only one-celled, single-celled amoebas in the ocean. But then again, the Lord God saw fit 333 million years ago during the Cambrian Age to change a single-cell creature in the ocean to the most complex life form in the ocean itself, aka cephalopod, with huge eyes and ganglia going from its eye to its spinal column. Although it wasn't a physical spinal column like we have made of bone, it was a cartilage. But the Lord God made from nowhere, from single cell amoebas to complex life forms known as cephalopods, including nautiluses and vampire squids. And these pictures of the seraphim, or the faces of the seraphim, form a squid-like entity that moves through the ocean by squashing water towards the pointed end of the pictograph itself, and moves through the water in that direction towards the bottom of the pyramid. I'm going to show you again. It's moving through the water by squirting water out of these two jet-like propulsion systems here and here. It's squirting the water out through those 13 beads and pushing itself through the ocean. You can see a face of a cephalopod, or what appears to be a vampire squid, if you allow your mind to stop thinking in a lineal direction. And I'm not real sure where the perfect focal point is on this camera yet, so I'm moving it around, plus I'm moving it around so you can see the faces of the seraphim change into the face of a cephalopod. And we're going to move that cephalopod through the water this way, and then we're going to move on to a more important aspect of the $1 bill, where the Lord God represents itself as the Alpha and the Omega. And we all know the story of the Lord God being the Alpha and the Omega. But have you ever seen a representation of the Alpha and the Omega on the obverse of the $1 bill? If you ask 100 people, have they ever seen an Omega symbol on the $1 bill, 98 of them will tell you no, and 2 of them will say yes, but they don't know where it is. Well, ladies and gentlemen, they don't know where it is because they never saw it, because they think in form of lineal thinking. And what you need to stop doing, if you are going to follow the instructions that I give you to see 3,300 pictographs on the obverse and on the reverse of the $1 bill, you need to stop thinking in a lineal fashion. Ladies and gentlemen, this representation is a representation of the Alpha and the Omega, and I'm going to explain it to you in great detail. George Washington was the first president, aka the Alpha, to appear on the $1 bill. George Washington will be the last president to appear on the $1 bill while America is a free nation. This has been predicted in the form of pictographs or pictography or ideograms for 7,000 years, because the same entity that created the Ark of the Covenant made the $1 bill, designed the Great Pyramid, and wrote the words in the Bible itself. This is the Omega because on these candy cane-like structures located to the left and right of George Washington's eyes, here and here, are 4 dashes, which represent the number 44. Moving past that, there is a representation of the number 44 when you take the alignment mark that appears on the base outside the Omega symbol here, this black alignment mark, and this black alignment mark here, and run a line straight up to touch the Omega symbol. That's a 44-degree angle. And ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you that the Omega symbol and the number 44 is no coincidence, ladies and gentlemen.